it's a bit of a special day at Grassmen today. There's a different chopper working here today, and basically Grassmen have teamed up with the Air Ambulance for Northern Ireland. We've offered up the yard here with kind permission from Gareth, and also AAR services, that we're going to help them recreate some scenarios that they've been called to. One of the most common types of incident they do get called to is rural, out in farms and stuff. So we have decided that we wanted to get on board and help them. So there's going to be a whole day's training, lots of different things to do. I think I'll just step back now and let you watch it. I know one thing, I would fair dry the grass on a rainy day. Well, scenario one, I'm with Dr. Davy Green. It's a wee bit of a legend here. Just putting that out there.
A legend on the donkey.
He's patched up a few guys I know, quite literally. But David, what was this scenario that you wanted to create here? Just explain roughly what we were watching there.
So we had a farming incident where we had a farmer got an arm trapped in machinery.
Yes, one of a red finger. Well, please be on. Is that for the DM?
Davy Green,
Thank you.
Look, Sinead, I say we're talking about an hour, maybe an hour and a half here before we be able to do anything.
No, we need to get her out.
Okay.
Immediately.
All right.
Okay. So we need just to come up with a plan and get her right immediately, okay?
All right.
Pulse is high or low.
It's all my fault.
As soon as I get her free.
Basically, become more unwell, and the team had to make the decision. The only way to get this person out, after trying to reverse the machine, trying to see is there any other way to get it out, the only way to get her out was to actually make a decision to amputate the trapped part of the arm.
And is that something that just happens through time? I don't know, is it heart? What causes the trigger to amputate?
So yeah, it would really be sort of clinical. So if the patient is so unwell, they're deteriorating, and that you need to get them out of there and get them, do other procedures or get them into hospital.
And the fact that the fire brigade couldn't come,
and they weren't going to be able to get the arm freed any other way. So they had to make the decision. And something like this, it's quite often that the actual trap part's going to be not salvageable anyway.
Looking at your hand there.
Oh, it's all mangled up.
Look, listen, not your whole arm isn't mangled. I think some of your fingers are trapped a part of your hand, okay? And I think you said yourself some of the fingers have come off.
Yeah.
I think your fingers have gone, okay? You're going a lot of here and you're still trapped. We need to get you out. We need to save you, okay? Right, let's go. Okay. emergency access times 2. The crew is connected to BP truck, one off arm. 3 ops ongoing.
Has this happened with the air ambulance in Northern Ireland? Have we had
No,
to amputate
we haven't.
as yet?
We haven't. We have been to a number of machinery incidents, but as a team we haven't had to.
And you've always been able to bring in, is it the DART procedure? You've always been able to reverse?
Disengage, get analgesia on board, reverse, and use of a tourniquet to stop that catastrophic bleeding that happens. So yeah, that's what we would try to teach the boys here.
Has seeing the real machines and in real life up close and instant, I guess, is it going to be beneficial for you in this job, do you think?
I think it will. We're attending more and more agricultural incidents. So for a lot of the team that maybe haven't spent a lot of time around machinery or farms or anything, I think a day like this is great. They can see the machines and get a feeling of what goes on.
Yes.
And she rises from
No, life saved.
Dr. Russell, how are you? This is scenario number 2 of the training day here at Grassmen HQ. Can you just break down what exactly, because you're leading this scenario, what exactly is happening and why are you practicing this, if that makes any sense?
The whole objective of this particular scenario was to get the crew to focus in on what we call access and egress. So we go to a lot of different scenarios. And one of the things that we need to assess first of all is the safety of the scenario. So in this scenario we've got electricity, we've got animals, and we've got live machinery. And in terms of access, how do you get into the patient? And then egress is how you get the patient out. And that all has to be done safely for the crew, for bystanders, and also for the patient.
Is that bleeding out that arm? It's oozing. Who's your base?
We're going to get you to these clothes over onto your back, and then we're going to get you some colours and get you sorted out, okay?
Is this something that you would be called to within the service, falls and things like that in farms? Have you attended many of those type of incidents before?
Certainly, I have attended a number of agricultural incidents. The most recent one that I've been to was someone who was seriously injured as a result of a fall. So a fall from height is a very common thing that we would go to. Agricultural and large animal injury is also a very significant event that we would go to as well.
And is training like this important, vital, or how would you describe a training day like this where we can come together and put a lot of rural scenarios in one day?
This is a very, very important day because many of us are not from a rural background.
Yes.
And we are not necessarily familiar with the hazards. And what we think is the countryside is very different from what you think is the countryside, because it's your office and we're only visiting.
Yes.
So it's really a great opportunity for us to appreciate the hazards.
How's that going now?
It really bothering me to tolerate it that well.
Right, let's get this traction on.
We hear a large truck or vehicle outside. Stop.
Russell, you heard that? We're doing a gram at TXM, we're doing one for the Alex today as well.
And should try to stay
Yeah.
to out of that bandage so that it's not secure.
Then we'll go from top to toe again, guys, once we've this done. We'll reevaluate and then we're going to pack it in and get out of here.
And this particular scenario, as I said, we involved a fall from a roof, we involved some electricity, live machinery, and a very difficult egress. So it was very hard to get out of this situation. So we had to package the patient, treat his injuries, and then at the end of this, we had to find a way safely out of this building.
Right up through, and then we'll
without you guys getting here fast, by the sounds of those injuries, and this could happen in real life, there's a slim chance of survival.
Well, certainly there's an improved chance of survival if you get care earlier.
Well, folks, this was scenario number 3. We're with Derek here. He's very calmly just asked us to call us by his first name, but I think that means he's really fancy, but we'll not get into that. Derek, what was set up in this scenario?
Well, this was classic kind of livestock injury that we would sometimes see, things we've been called out to. So it was within the calving barn, and there's a father and his teenage son have been working with a cow with calf foot, and the son's had a very bad facial injury with torrential bleeding from his nose, and he's been kind of concussed, so he's semi-conscious. The father, however, wasn't so fortunate. He was actually a chest crush injury, and a bad head injury, so he's unconscious, and as a result he's lost the ability to protect his airway, so his life's very much in danger. And on top of that, he's serious chest injuries to the right side of his chest, and he's also been gored partially with what we call evisceration of some internal organs. So he's very much a number of life-threatening things going on, and it's not entirely different to some of the things we've seen and been out to.
Hello?
Secure.
Okay. Rory, there's a guy over here.
All right, Phil.
Hello? Hello there. Can you hear me, sir? Hello there. What's your name?
That's grand.
Whereabouts are you sore? Can you tell me?
I might just try and just get this guy ready here.
What happened to you? Yeah, I'm going over to the shop.
He's intense
Can you straighten out
chismus.
your legs for me?
Right, okay.
What do we need to do here?
So Phil, this chap here is, he's not making much response. He's vomited profusely. He's got a bit of trismus here as well. We in monitors at all?
Yeah, get him close off monitor on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just flexing his limbs.
Okay.
Do you want to lift them out so we have 360?
3, 1, 2, 3.
Perfect.
Alright, okay.
Right. Shout if he deteriorates.
And we'll take, probably need a couple of nasopharyngeal because I might not be able to get this in. Alright, being sick again.
IV access.
Yeah, if you can.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Oh, right.
As we see it.
All you know is his respirators are fast on the left, chest
Okay.
isn't moving on the right, he's vomiting everywhere, he's trismus. What's that you're putting on there, Phil? Just shout
The
out.
SpO2 is on. And now
No trace. Okay, so what are you doing?
Cannula.
Just a cannula?
Yeah, for the minute.
Okay, if you press the soft bit of the nose there, hold it down. Right, get him to spit the blood out. Just postural drainage. Get him to keep spitting out.
It's not just beside a hospital either.
No, it's in Fermanagh. We were acting in this setting, so there's a big distance involved. Obviously, that sort of demonstrates the usefulness of the helicopter in getting out there, but also in being able to extricate and take him out of that situation to Belfast to the Royal Victoria Hospital for emergency treatment of his head injury and also his chest injuries.
And then saying Royal Victoria Hospital, that's a sign of the significance of the injuries received.
Yes, Gareth. Yes. I mean, we were trying to enact a major agricultural trauma here, and the Royal Victoria Hospital, really acting as a major trauma centre for Northern Ireland, is where this man needed to be.
And that's without that HEMS team and the air ambulance support. Would it have been in it with those injuries that you just described? Was that heading towards touch and go without him, or maybe it was touch and go with him?
It essentially, the way we cast this scenario, this would not have been survivable without access to brain surgery, to the neurosurgical unit, and also to thoracics to manage his chest injuries.
It's very unstable, so we're going to give him 88 rock, isn't that
Yeah,
right?
that's lovely. Alright, okay.
We're at 64%.
Do you have the tube?
I have a tube.
Okay, do we have air entry?
On the left, yes.
On the right?
Very curved.
Get your
Pop
finger
it
in
in,
there, Phil.
finger on in through.
Okay.
Pop. So I'm going to keep it in. Do I feel the lung up against my finger now?
Coming up a wee bit, but not
Right.
fully.
Right, so that's as good as we're going to
Okay,
get
that is
there.
as good as we're going to get. If we've got ephedrine there,
Yeah,
that's great.
So we've got the ephedrine. This guy is probably a big abdominal bleed.
yeah, he's got a serious head injury. He's aspirated.
Not responding to
I
food.
said TXA, we get TXA,
Yeah.
all it's worth.
Did you get food?
We get TXA, yeah, we get a gram of TXA.
Yeah. We've done as much as we can here. What we might do
So
is
your heart rate's dropping. I can't make it go any lower.
Right, we'll give him some hypertonic, but we'll move over and see what he's doing. He's probably got a base of skull fracture, so he just needs immobilised, took out of here, and then reassessed in the ambulance.
Yeah.
And we can let the crew deal with that.
but this chap is critically unwell.
Unwell, and
Can't
his
respond
odds.
it.
Rich, what's his pulse there now? I think we can go back to him.
Yeah. 3.
Okay, that's all set.
And down.
Is that arm cut there, Mark? Guys, we're going to lift this up and get him outside here. I'm going to just have a wee quick recce outside to see where the crew have left their thing. Watch who you're... Catherine, come you up here now. When we go out through the doors, we're all going to have to move back and forwards to go up and down. So the main... You're a bad man.
Let him go.
That was brilliant.
And this scenario, just the way it played out at the end, the son was able to go with a land crew to hospital because his injuries weren't just as life-threatening. But the decision was made, not every time, if I've got this right, but the decision was made in this instance, we have to fly this patient.
Yeah, and that's, I think that's part of having a doctor paramedic team, that they're able to look at the situation, they're able to assess if there's multiple injured patients and make a decision on who needs to go where, prioritise and take the patient to the right hospital, at the right time.
Well, the cow and calves fine.
Yeah. We didn't traumatise them too much.
They've done all
But
right.
they were great.
All right, Bessie. Not a lot of room for the two of us in
No,
here.
it's a tight space down here. 2 big men.
We've come up from the yard up to do one here up at AAR services, one of the scenarios, scenario number 4. Just talk us through what your intention was with this scenario, because the second you opened up that door when you first came here on a rec Ave, we'll call it that, there you were like, oh, I can do so much in here.
Yeah. I'd just like to thank you again for the opportunity to do the
No
training
problem.
here on your site, because this is a scenario designed to really push the doctors and paramedics to their limits, because the scenario is that of a child that needs to have an anaesthetic given, and they're essentially bleeding to death in the pit here of the mechanic yard. So that in itself really is a stressful thing to do. It doesn't happen very often, thankfully, but when it needs to happen, it has to happen, and is something we would train for regularly. But the opportunity to do it in the actual yard adds so much more. We've got the tight space down here in the pit, the confined working space, the poor lighting, the noise, the dust, the smell, the distractions, the noise in the background, the hammering, the gas going off, and then all of our teams as well just hammered home the real importance of
That's it.
checking for safety.
Guys, for real, watch that drop behind you. There's a big wound on the right side of the head. You notice it's still bleeding heavily in the right side.
Right.
Lots of blood.
Okay. Right here, there's some catastrophic bleeding here. I'm going to
Pull it all around you.
I'm going to need a compression bandage or something to just press in there over both chests, over both thoraces.
From what you can hear in this environment, doesn't seem to be fully around you anymore.
Okay. So cap refill then. I'm going to start to assess the hemodynamics just as we're doing that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
2, 3, 4.
Okay, heart rate is 171. Give us that blanket over this child as well, because it is flipping freezing here, okay? Thank you. Very good. So, it's going to be 5 20 ml syringes of saline, okay, 100 mils, alright? Good stuff there, right, we're dropping the stats tonight. Okay, heart rate 72. That's okay. The next thing we want to do is we want to also get the child up onto the stretcher here, okay? Simon, start. Okay.
So what were you expecting from the doctors and the paramedics on this particular call?
Well, I said there's those two elements. There's the medical side. There's lots of medical things had to happen. They had to rapidly make some decisions about whether or not to put the child off to sleep or try and run to the nearest hospital. But we made it hard for them by saying it was a bad weather day and they were miles and miles from any hospital, especially the hospital they need to get to, which was the Sick Children's Hospital, where this child ultimately needs to go. So pushing them right to their limits in terms of what fluids to give, how much to give, whilst all the time these distractions are happening in the background, really pushing their non-technical skills as well as the medical skills. If you set our doctors and paramedics around a table to chat about this, they'll come up with perfect answers every time. But when you put them in this environment where there's lots of distractions, relatives that are crying, workers who are maybe have their own priorities in the background, still making noise when they've been asked to stop, things like that, these are just pushing them to their limits. That was the real challenging medically and the background distractions.
And in this particular scenario, did I notice, or am I right, the helicopter wasn't an option to fly the child back?
Yes, we sort of gave them that because it is a real thing we experience. The weather can take the helicopter offline. The pilot's hours, by law, once they get to a certain time of the day, they're legally not allowed to fly. They would literally lose their job, and that's independent of how sick the patient is. So it's just an absolute aviation industry that's got this safety nailed down to a head that certain things cannot and will never happen. We don't always have that luxury in medicine.
So that's why in this situation, all of a sudden the ambulance became maybe operating table isn't the correct way to word it, but it became the centre that they came running in, and the one that we videoed, because of the noise, the circumstances, baby was took to what I would call, just by observing, safety of the back of the ambulance.
Yes, so it takes it out of that environment. It's not an ideal clinical environment because you're still quite limited in space in the back of the ambulance, but you have a lot more room than you have in the back of the helicopter. The real benefit of the helicopter is getting the medical team, the doctor and paramedics, to the patient.
Airway, still making CO2 massively. Okay, so our airway is secure. We have our ultrasound with us here. We do, right? We'll get that once we're into this ambulance. 2 seconds, we'll think about that.
Patient tail lift in operation.
Right, so this is
Key message there is the helicopter is about getting the HEMS team to the patient fast.
Yes, the doctor and the paramedic and all the kit we carry,
yes,
we can do virtually everything that I can do in the resus room. And because we train so often on days like today, sometimes you would feel even just as happy that to have one colleague by your side that have trained together all the time just doing these scenarios, that you can deliver the same standard of care you'd expect in a busy resus room.
What side am I looking at there?
That's the right side.
That's the right side. So I can see long sliding there between the different and I can put on Edmund.
You can.
So the right side is good. Let's look at the left side now, Kieran. I don't see the...
A bit of a wheel bear, right? You're happy, you can't make a big win, but you do get Okay, grand, you high five, get some blood and you jump through a five. Okay, that's more like it. Actually, grab something to take outside, we'll repack it. Lovely chat.
A question then, we'll let you go and debrief all the team on your particular scenario. Did the child make it?
The child made it every time. All 4 times, child survived.
Well, sure, what more can we ask for? Can I tell you another wee thing, and this is to the camera. I was only looking in and observing this baby being all the work being done, and I could feel myself like,
yeah,
you know, saying, feeling that feeling the back of my throat, saying, I really hope that's something I never experience
absolutely.
or never have to stand
we all have
in
those
it.
feelings as well, but we acknowledge there's a likelihood the service will encounter these patients, and we have to be prepared, and that's why we try and make these training scenarios as real as possible.